Hi everyone, my name is Sharlette Reid. I am the founder of Emerge Worldwide charity that works with women and girls who have been sex trafficked and sexually exploited. But I'm also an elder at City Church here in London.
Cool. So thanks, Charlotte. It's really a pleasure to meet you. And this is the first time I've sat down with you because the first time I encountered you was at Kabod, which was about a month ago.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was quite striking about you is that you're very unapologetic in terms of your approach. And clearly you have a strong faith in God. So where does kind of your confidence and unapologetic approach come from?
I'll be honest. I grew up with a dad who was very much say it as you hear it, say it
Okay.
as it is. My dad was in the forces, so he doesn't mince his words, and he kind of brought us up to be very direct, very confident. Kind of defend yourself, be strong. And I have two brothers, so he kind of brought me up to be just as strong as they were and just as confident as they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's elaborate on the roles that you take on. So you have Emerge Worldwide. So tell us what that's about.
Emerge Worldwide is a non-for-profit organisation
Okay.
that works specifically with women and girls who have become victims or survivors of sexual exploitation specifically, and sex trafficking. And it is one of the biggest crimes in the world. It's something that we don't talk about as much as we should.
Right.
And it's something that's really on the increase as well. It's a crime that goes unseen many times. People don't know the signs, don't know what to look for. It's very hard to report this type of crime. But it's international as well as national. And our job as doing the work we do at Emerge Worldwide is to make sure that women and girls know that they have the charity as an organisation that can support them in terms of restoration and care. Because a lot of these girls have been through very rough journeys. They've had vulnerabilities that have been exploited by people who have preyed on them, know. And so we support women and girls in that journey, but we also work with many second and third parties as well, in terms of reporting systems and supporting in mentorship and counsel and advice. So we get a lot of referrals that come through Met Police services and other public services that work with victims as well.
And how about the other roles that you have as part of your day-to-day?
I also, so I am an elder at City Church, and some of you may know me from that if you're listening. And I've been at Ruach for 3 years. I've been in ministry for I've been saved for 21 years. And I've probably been serving in a leadership capacity probably for more like 6-7 years of my life as well. So it's been great to be there. I'm passionate about the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm passionate about seeing lives transformed and hearts changed. I believe that God has a purpose for us. He has a calling for us. He has an assignment for us, And so as part of my life's work, whether it's been traveling internationally or working more locally in communities, I love people, and it's about channeling and spreading that message of hope and of love. So I'm invested in that. Sometimes I'm preaching on Sundays, sometimes I'm preaching here, sometimes I'm preaching abroad. But I love this adventure with God. I wouldn't trade it in for anything. Not even food, and that's my favorite.
So how did your journey with the ministry start?
That's a good question. I got saved when I was 17, and it was very much a very personal journey with God. I didn't come from a background and family that were heavy into Pentecostal church and moves of the Spirit. So it was completely different. I grew up in a Baptist church, where they didn't believe the Holy Spirit even moved like that anymore, And I think when I got saved at an outreach in Battersea, Shortly after that, I really sensed this need to really study the word and know God for myself, not what
Right.
people say, not what the preacher says. And I got to work in the word. And I remember making this vow to the Lord and saying, I'll search you and I'll serve you as long as you keep showing yourself as real to me,
Right.
And so I think quite early on in my private time of prayer and stuff, I knew that I was going to be preaching and teaching the word. I would be at home early hours and, times at night, just writing sermons, studying the word and the scriptures. So, I think shortly after that, I knew that there was a calling to do this. I didn't necessarily know it would be in a church leadership capacity, but that just has been where the course and the leading of the Lord has taken me to in this season.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And like Sharlette as a child and Sharlette as an adult, has there been much? Are there many similarities? Or has there been a huge change?
I think there's been lots of changes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been someone who loves people. And we traveled a lot when I was young because my dad was in the forces. So we lived in Germany, we lived in Cyprus, we lived in Winchester, we came back to the UK. And my dad was stationed in other locations. Okay. We had an appreciation for culture, cultural differences. And racial differences and treating people with love and respect. Okay. And so that I think that has always been consistent. I think there was times when I felt very hopeless, and I was like, I don't know where I'm going in life. Right. I had lots of questions. I still have lots of questions. And I think that deepens my relationship with God. It doesn't take anything away. Okay. It adds this sense of inquisition, like who is God? And I constantly want to search that out. I constantly want to know him. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So I've always been there. I've always had that kind of, my mum used to call me Reporter Rodriguez because she was like, you always want to know stuff and ask questions and be in people's, business, listen to big people's conversations when I was younger. But my confidence has grown as I've developed as a woman and as I have flourished in my calling. I felt a greater sense of value and self-esteem and just a deeper sense of knowing my assignment. And I think that has changed me too. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I've always been creative. And when I made the decisions to get into fashion, some of my friends were quite surprised. But I guess it sounds like for you, it sounds like more of a natural kind of progression into getting into ministry and how you were when you were younger. Is that correct?
No. I mean, when I was going to uni and stuff, everything, I was studying to be a broadcast journalist. Wow. I wanted to be a war reporter. Okay. I wanted to be out in the front. I wanted to be, I had this kind of daredevil mentality. I want to be the front line. And so that was where I was going. I was studying to do that. You know what I'm saying? Even when I was saved, I was still studying to do that at uni. And then, I was applying to loads of journalistic, different institutions, BBC, ITV, Sky News. And I was like, what's going on here? I'm not getting a break, at all. And I took a trip to the States in 2007, still trying to navigate, you know what I'm saying? And I knew I was growing in the word, I was growing in teaching, but I didn't necessarily think that was the course, that was the trajectory I was going in. Okay, sure. And then I remember going to the States in 2007, and I remember I stopped someone in the streets. It was ABC News Channel 7 team, and I said, hi guys, I did broadcast journalism when I was back in London, wanted to do some work experience. They said, fine, pop us your CV. So I did, and within a week, I was at ABC News Channel 7. I met all the anchors. I did 2 weeks experience. They wanted to keep me on for longer. I went through all the editing booths. I was there. I was like, this is what you pray for. This is what you apply. Finally, the break has come in another nation. But in that interim, I'd done some work in an elementary school with some kids from the projects. And there was something that I got from working with those children in the projects, that was much more rewarding than doing the journalism, even though that was what I had pursued.
Okay.
And that's when I knew things were shifting.
Right.
And it was from that I went into teaching. I went into teaching kids and teaching young people. I went into education policy. And so that's where the journey started to veer off. But it really wasn't where I thought the destination was going to be.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow. So you mentioned that you traveled quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because you've been to Ghana as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Of all the places that you've been, which one is the closest to your heart?
Oh, that's a tough one. The closest one to my heart, if I'm honest, is Namibia.
Okay.
I went to Namibia in 2012.
Right.
And I was staying in South Africa, and we were doing some missions outreach work to camp 10 meetings in the community.
Yeah.
And the apostle there said, let's go out to Namibia. And so me and his son, we took a drive. We went late night. We were driving through the borders.
Right.
We came out into Namibia, and as far as you can see is this kind of arid red and brown dirt.
Yeah.
There's no road. It's just tracks. There's no trees. It was just arid landscape.
Yeah.
And that for my mind was like, oh my gosh, wow, I've never seen this. There's no houses. How do we know where we're going? You know, but we were following the tracks that had gone before.
Okay. Yeah.
When we came into Namibia, and the hospitality of the people was beautiful. People who had, simple things, but they treated you well.
Yeah.
They knew how to laugh, how to smile. And it was such a lesson in the simple things of life.
Yeah.
It peeled back this kind of false sense of materialism and got me thinking about what's important in life, peeling it back. And I had the best barbecues, the best roasts, and we did some outdoor, because they always say Namibia is known for having the best meat.
Yeah.
And when we did the tent outreach meeting, we had a phenomenal turnout. You saw people coming out in their sandals and bare feet with their children and dusty clothes, and they didn't care. They came to just worship God.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful. The presence of God was so rich. And we really saw God move in such a powerful, miraculous way. People got saved. Those moments, you just can't put them into, I can't put them into money, convert them into anything else. It's just special moments that remind you of deep meanings of life, give you back some roots, nourish you differently. And that's what it was for me. Yeah.
But the thing is, I was actually born in Sierra Leone. Wow. So after coming here when I was 3, the first time we went back there was, I think, 2001.
Right.
I would have been about 16. And that's the wrong time to go back home because you're too materialized.
Yeah.
But then I realized how happy people are, and they have far less than we do.
Right.
And it's only now as a kind of full-grown adult that I appreciate that genuine happiness, because there was a war there, there was a civil war there,
right? And
we'd gone just after the war happened. So I fully understand, what you're saying about just that the happiness and how that you can't leave a place like that and not have an effect on you.
Right, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
So just sticking with Sharlette as a young person for a sec, is there any kind of words of advice you'd give to the younger Sharlette?
Yeah. I would tell younger Sharlette that you have to handle life loosely,
right,
in order to enjoy the adventure.
Interesting.
And that's because when you're young, you're taught to really carve out your way, to be very intentional. Where are you going? What do you want to do? Who do you want to be? And that can become quite rigid prematurely. And I think I was quite rigid coming up, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to achieve, how I thought life worked. And I've learned as I've grown older that actually not being in control of every moment's okay. Right. Not knowing the details of life is all right.
Yeah.
That there is adventure doesn't mean it's without sorrow, it's without tears, it's without pain. But it means that in my favorite adventures, Lord of the Rings. But, you know, there's moments you don't think you're going to make it, but you will.
Yeah.
There's moments you think you're going to lose the battle, but you come out victorious. There's times you're weak because you're not immune from suffering,
Right.
even in the faith. But I would have told little Sharlette, prepare for the adventure because that's what it is.
Right.
And handle life loosely. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, what's your heritage? What's your background?
I am half Jamaican on my dad's side,
Yeah.
and I am half Guyanese as well. Yeah.
Okay. So you've been back to both places.
Yeah. No, I haven't been to Jamaica. I've only been to Guyana.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm yet to go to Jamaica. I need to taste the juicy patties. I need the proper roasted breadfruit and ackee and saltfish, and I need all of that. Yeah, okay. I'm still to go.
So, in terms of Guyanese culture, what would you say is something that all Guyanese people would know about the country?
All the Guyanese people know that when we speak, we sing. Number one. They say that between the Guyanese and the Trinis, if you're out there, you know what I mean. And some of the Bajans, but not as sweet. They don't talk as sweet as the Guyanese. But we sing, and the Guyanese people will know we love our soca music, number two, and we love good food. Right. Give us some chana, give us some roti, some dal puri. That's like roti with the lentils in it. Good chicken curry or curry chicken, as you might say. Okay. We know how to nyam.
Mm-hmm. Is there like a concentrated Guyanese kind of segment in the UK?
I don't think there's any like area where you can go and say there's predominantly like Guyanese people. Right. You'll find us in batches in different locations in different places. But there's like Guyanese Independence Day and things like that. And a lot of Guyanese know other Guyanese. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So moving on to kind of your day-to-day role, was there, or can you recall a sermon that you heard that to this day you'll always remember?
A sermon that I've heard that I'll always remember. I think growing up, it was No More Sheets by Juanita Bynum. Okay. Yeah, and she was talking very much about relationships. It was quite controversial at the time. Right. Being a woman in ministry can be quite controversial at times. But she spoke from a place that resonated with many young women at the time. Okay. And it really resonated with me. My parents were going through a divorce. I was, seeing this young guy at school at the time. I wasn't necessarily in a healthy place in terms of just mind and where I was going. I was disappointed. I was crushed. They were separating apart. I understood some things, other things I didn't, and many questions. And I think that the sermon came and it spoke to the brokenness you can feel in life. And she spoke unapologetically. And but still with a level of compassion and sincerity. And that really resonated with me at the time. No More Sheets was about not sleeping around and not feeling that there's parts of you here, there, and everywhere. And that God can still heal you and restore you. And that was a real powerful word even for me at the time. Yeah, and that stuck with me over the years. Okay. Yeah.
But the thing is, I was going to ask you, because you touched upon kind of controversy of women in leadership. Yeah. So when you came into ministry as, I guess, with a position, what was the reception?
When I first came into ministry as a leader, I was back at New Testament Assembly, which was very rich years, very grounding years, very humble ministry. I saw a first lady who was very strong, very compassionate, but she had an amazing heart for people and community, and so I saw some strong female leaders even at the church. But I think when you're young, youth can play for you or play against you sometimes, depending on how people perceive you. And sometimes when you're young, you're almost told, kind of hush a little bit, you're not ready in the same way.
Okay.
And sometimes there's areas that need pruning and maturity. I get that,
Right.
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 I think there were some oppositions I faced outside of the ministry.
Mm.
So some things that people understood or didn't understand about personality and character as well,
Right.
And so I think I was zealous at the beginning, and I was like, okay, but I didn't understand it because I didn't have a reference point.
Okay.
I didn't have like spiritual mothers that helped to grow me up and nurture me. When I first had the calling of Christ, mothers came along the journey, along the way. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I think initially it was quite challenging because ministry is still very much a male-dominated area when it comes to preaching and teaching. Some people are very loud about there not being female preachers on the platform. I've been in rooms where people say things and I don't think you'd ever say that to a male leader.
Right, okay.
You know what I'm saying? But then these kind of gender biases are not unique to the church. It's just culture and community, and some of that's still shifting, and those narratives around women are still shifting. But I think I understood who placed the call in my life, which was Christ. And so I found ways of, I think over the years, adapting. Sometimes I wanted to quit. Yeah, I was like, this is too much, And I think women in ministry is a bit different because when you're a man in ministry, you're growing up as a young man, another male may take you under his wing, say, follow me, I'm going to preach here, I'm going to preach there. And then not be taboo or frowned upon. But you take a young lady with you and you're a male leader and you're out preaching, they're concerned about what people may think and what people may say. And I understand that, So you don't always get the same discipleship at that level because of the concern as well as the need to protect your name and protect who you are as a female coming up.
Cool. Are there any kind of myths as a leader that maybe you can dispel?
I mean, there are probably different myths around different leaders. If I'm honest,
I think more generic. Don't want to put anybody on.
I mean, I think when it comes to ministry, some people are very approachable and very person-centered. And people feel like, okay, I can connect with you.
Sure.
There's symmetry here. You're human. We can laugh. We can talk about this. And I think people see you as accessible, relatable. I think good leadership is about forming relationship with those you're called to serve. And some of us are good with that at different levels.
Yeah, sure.
So I think the myth is that no church leader is superhuman. Everyone does not have inexhaustible time. And I think sometimes that gets forgotten. People cry, leaders cry too, leaders weep too. Leaders go through seasons where you have to be your own encourager and tell yourself keep going, even when people are still making demands on you, even when the pressures of life and family and finance are still squeezing you, in the season. That humanity, I think sometimes it gets lost. Sometimes it's because we don't allow people to see that enough. And sometimes it's because people don't want to see it. They want you to be the person they go to, and they don't want to see flaws. They don't want to see, they want you to be readily available sometimes, all the time. And sometimes that's because there is a idea around what it means to lead in church that makes people think because you have that title, you have that role, you've reached some place, you've arrived. And that's not true. We're never arriving. We're all learning. We're all being grafted into leadership. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I guess there's, I think we're kind of saying the same thing. There's a level of celebrity around a leader in church. Because I grew up in the Church of England.
Right.
And I served in Church of England as a chorister and as an altar boy. And then I went to a Pentecostal church where it was a bit of a culture shock for me.
Okay.
It was very charismatic, I'd say. And then I went back to C of E, but it was more new school C of E where I didn't necessarily need to wait to speak to the vicar or the rector. And I feel that going to both types of kind of churches made me more of a mature Christian in terms of how to understand the roles and responsibilities of a leader.
Yeah.
So you agree with the celebrity angle in terms of the leader in church?
No, I grew up in a Baptist church, so
Okay.
I was at the Baptist church until I was 17.
I see.
So it was very much a missional church. So
Okay.
there were lots of community missions locally and internationally.
Yeah.
It was very much about very multicultural. So we had a lot of expats in that church as well who had come from other places. So no, the leader took much more of a humbler role.
Okay.
You didn't always have to hear him to know he was there, you know,
Right.
and he was leading. He had strong leaders in different departments, and missions was very much the belly of the church. So you would see like this massive atlas with all these different people who would come up in the church, fulfill different leadership capacities, and then gone out into places like, you know, Brazil and places like India and stuff. Yeah. And we were encouraged to pray for that. So the missional heart was very big. The humility of the leader was very much at the forefront. And the sense of service and the sense of kind of celebrity idea of leadership was very alien, because that wasn't the culture of that church in any way, shape or form. Yeah. I think coming into the Pentecostal church, I think there are layers to church culture. And I think there is a celebrity culture within church now that esteems, you know, people and what they do, and celebrates them sometimes more than we should, to be honest. You know, God's not looking for celebrities. He's looking for servants. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that popularity doesn't come. God won't make your name great. It doesn't mean that that can't happen. But it's how you manage those dynamics, you know? And I think that's always important. Yeah,
I agree. How was like the COVID period for you? Because for me, it was, I spent like 3 days panicking. Because from a business point of view, I had to tell about 30 customers and say to them, I don't know when your stuff's going to be ready. I had to tell the team as to go home, I don't know when you're coming back. But I guess in your line of work, how was it for you?
Well, Emerge Worldwide only started in 2020. So Emerge Worldwide started during the pandemic, that vision. Before that, for 6 years, I had another business, which was working with children. So I had a tuition company called Rue Tuition. It offered Saturday schools. It offered one-to-one home tuition, face-to-face tuition. We worked in partnership with several primary schools. We offered an 11 plus grammar and private school entrance program. I mean, it was flourishing. I had 3 different centres in different boroughs for kids. Business was bustling. It was great. And then the pandemic kicked in. I was walking out of White Horse Manor Primary School, and I remember a teacher running out going, guys, we're on lockdown, you know, from tomorrow. And none of us really knew what that meant, you know? And then we were told it's going to be a couple of weeks. And in the process of COVID, I actually ended up just moving to online one-to-one tuition. So many aspects of facets of the business had come to an end because we didn't have premises, we didn't have venues. And then I had to make an executive decision, which I did prayerfully, which was, wow, God, the business was in high tide. Like, you know, this is a great time. Profits coming, money's coming in. And then it was like, okay, Shar, that summer of 2021, I remember teachers, principals of schools who we had contracts with contacting me and saying, so you're going to be coming back in September? And the government had launched this kind of new tuition scheme. And to cut a long story short, I had to make an executive decision that we weren't going to come back, because if we came back, class sizes would be smaller and it would not be financially viable to continue to do that and to still pay 2 staff. I'd still have to pay them the same, still pay the same for hire. So actually, in the process of COVID,
Mm.
I ended up closing down my whole business through
Wow.
tuition. But at the time, it was really hard
Yeah.
because it was huge. I had team, I had colleagues, I had staff, you know. You know, 7 to 8 people on my staff. You know, they were part of the schedule and teaching of these kids. You got all
Yeah.
these relationships. And then I felt end of 2021 that it was time to actually close down the business officially. Because of Emerge Worldwide growing, I was able to kind of pour my time and my resources into
Okay.
that. Yeah, for 2 years. I've now handed Emerge Worldwide over now.
Oh, you handed it over?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm a builder, you see.
Yeah.
I got to keep moving.
So you clearly have an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Right. That seems to be very natural, because to have a lot of business owners, they will keep that business going. They'll stay on board till the wheels fall off.
Right.
And then they won't realize the time for them to step back.
Yeah.
That's, it's definitely an admirable quality. What would you say is your most, your go-to Bible quote?
Oh my gosh. For the weapons of our warfare are mighty to the pulling down of strongholds. I think that whole understanding that the battles that we fight are not all physical.
Okay.
I think that would be one of the crux, I would say. It reminds me. But then I have others. Let me come back to that. Let me think. No, let me be honest. Let's do that one again. So I would say that the greatest of these, talking about the gifts, is charity or love. That little piece in there, for me, is everything.
Okay.
If I'm honest, I think love is at the center and should be at the center of everything that we do. And love has been the greatest gift that has, for me, forged the strongest relationships I've had with people.
Okay.
At times it's kept me going. Love has been the greatest lesson I've had to learn. To forgive is love. To trust God is to love him, to know him, to give him your heart. Loving people who have hurt me, loving people who have disappointed me. Loving and serving people who may not always have the best motives and intentions. You realize love really is, if you can do it and you do it right, it will cost you, but you'll be remembered for your love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so flipping on its head, are there any, I'm going to put it this way. So my flaw is that I have a huge issue with authority.
Yeah.
It's crippling because I had a very strict dad. I moved out when I was 18 just because we couldn't live together. And I wanted to start my business out of his house because I couldn't have women come in and out of the house to do fittings.
Okay.
Even though it was purely, it was a genuine kind of thing I was doing, but as African dad, he wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
But then my kind of issue with authority, it works in the benefit where it keeps my business going, it keeps me coming to work every day. But then even sometimes in marriage, I have issue being told what to do by my wife, and she means the best to me. So are there any kind of areas or an area in your personality that's a flaw that you can flip on its head and turn into positive?
Sometimes I'm miserable.
Really?
Sometimes I'm miserable. And I'm not, I'm not moany, thank God. Yeah. But I think, sometimes you can be very overcritical about yourself. And then sometimes I can get upset or miserable about that because it's like, there are things I wanted to do or things I wanted to achieve or places I wanted to be. And then I start to feel a bit down in the dumps, like I'm not there yet. Yeah. And sometimes yeah, that just can kind of make me a bit unhappy about some
Okay.
things. I mean, people probably go through that anyway,
Yeah.
but I would probably say that it's being overcritical.
Right.
Yeah. I can be very overcritical of myself,
Right.
number one. Like for years, I didn't even watch preaching back because I was
Okay.
very overcritical. My dad had very high standards, you see, so he brought us up to be very reflective. And even if you weren't, he's gonna tell you. You know, he'll tell you you could have done this better, you should have done that, blah, 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 blah. Now he would celebrate you in his own way for your successes, but he had very high expectations.
Right.
He was very much a disciplinarian too. And I think I grew up kind of seeing performance as equating with my success in life.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So because of that, it made me quite critical about things I did, what I did, how well I did it. And I think sometimes I can still be a bit like that, you know, kind of thinking I should be further down the journey, I should be doing things a bit differently. Sometimes it can make me a bit critical of others because I have an idea of how it should be done or how it could have been done better. You know what I'm saying? And I catch myself. I'm like, yes, you know, you learn to just let people learn. Yeah. You know. So yeah, I think sometimes that is my Achilles heel.
Are you a perfectionist?
No, I'm not a perfectionist, but I like things to be done well. Okay. Yeah, I like things to be done well. And because I'm very strategic, I'm always looking at, okay, how could that have been done differently? How could that have been done better? How could that have been? And that's the way my mind thinks sometimes. Yeah. That's good sometimes. Sometimes it works against me.
Yeah. So like of all the many different projects that you've worked on, you may have kind of answered this already, but what has been the most inspirational that you've worked on?
I would probably say Emerged Worldwide Charity has been the most inspirational. Right. It's an era I had to really learn. I had to study. I had to really pray into. I felt like I was the new kid on the block. I had to learn from other professionals, other people in the industry, other people who were doing similar works to what we did, understood the field better. So I was back in a very teachable posture again, you know. This year I did a 25-kilometer walk. And it was it was the most defining moment of 2022 for me, and probably one of the most defining moments of my life. I did a skydive this year as well, also for the charity. But my friend said to me the other day, why the 25-kilometer, not the... I said, the 25-kilometer walk over 16 bridges in London for me was the first time when my physical body was in agony. Right. And we'd been walking for over 6 and a bit hours. And I was thinking, Shah, I don't know if you can go anymore. My feet were aching. My calves were in pain. My hips felt like they were dislocated. I was tired. I was hot. I was sweaty. My thighs felt like they'd been so stretched to the point of, it was just so painful.
Did you have to train for it?
Well, you're meant to train for it. I did a couple of laps around Melford Park, and that was like the most I did in terms of like walking and things like this. But I'd done a part, I felt pretty good. Towards the end, it was mind over pain because I was in pain. Yeah. And I'd never felt body pain like that. And I remember being like, Shah, you have to make it for these women and girls. You need to cross that line. And the rest of the team were with us from Emerged Worldwide. And that was like a make or break. And I said to Faye, that taught me that I have capacity to do a lot more than I allow myself to do. Okay. And I need to push past that threshold. And that's what 2022 did for me, that 25-kilometer walk. Okay. I broke a threshold. And I realized, you can do more. So do more.
I guess you're clearly not afraid of heights then.
I was afraid of heights. That's why I did the skydive. I did the skydive to be like, you can kick this fear out the room. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to do a skydive. And the rest of the team chimed in, said, fine, we'll do it. Some people said, I won't do it. And they ended up doing it. Okay. And being up there 10,000 feet up in the sky, you're strapped to somebody else. You're like, if I die, I die. That's the point I got to. I'll just be dying for a good cause. You know? I want to tell you I was super brave up there, but I wasn't. I was petrified. I was thinking, oh my gosh. But I remember my feet dangling over the edge. My brother said to me, what was going through your mind when you were sitting over the edge of that plane and all you could see was sky? And I said, Dan, I knew that after this moment, fear would never have a grip on me in terms of heights ever again. And the moment they said, put your head back, and we went over the edge, that was it. It was nailed. So I'm really intentional about dealing with my fears. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. There were parts when the guy said, open your eyes, spread your hands. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. But it was great. It was great, yeah.
Okay. So in terms of like the future for Sharlette, what can viewers expect to see from you? Wow,
well, I have so much in store for women. I'm not done with women yet. So I feel like next year, definitely 2023 and moving forward, I really want to do a lot more in 2 areas. Number one, I want to work more with healing of the soul when it comes to women and girls. I feel like it's an area that's often overlooked. There's traumas, there's disappointments, there's grievances. We don't deal with that, it will deal with us, you know? So I want to create safe spaces. I've got some retreats, really pull women away and nurture these areas within us for healing. And the second thing is really want to bring around different types of women in different sectors in Christendom and beyond, not exclusive, into a women's conference in 2023.
Will that be in the UK?
Yeah, we'll be here in the UK, yes. It will be somewhere probably in South London. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to have an all-female band, female DJ, female speakers. We're going to take over. This is our winning season. We're coming into claim ground. And I want to forge this kind of real, genuine networking and relationship that is a bit hybrid. In one instance, it's I'm connecting with you on the level of who you are, character, personality, these things that naturally forge us together, but also connecting in area of sector and industry and passion and innovation and creativity. And I want to create that space for those partnerships and relationships to be formed.
So the way we're just going to wrap up the kind of interview is just that we're going to go through some 10 quickfire A/B type questions.
Cool. I've been waiting for this part.
So first one, Audi or Mercedes?
Mercedes.
Yeah, okay. Beyonce or Whitney?
Ooh, I'm going to have to go for Whitney. It's a classic.
iPhone or Android?
Android. Don't even get me started on the iPhone, so please.
All right, how about this one? Lifetime supply of hair products, lifetime supply of makeup?
Makeup. Lifetime supply of makeup.
Okay, nice. R&B or Afrobeats?
R&B. I'm an R&B girl.
Yeah.
At heart. But I do love Afro.
I don't know what you're going to say for this one. A well-paid job in a toxic environment or low-paid job that feels like heaven every day? No, I didn't know what you were going to say.
I'm going to take the high-paid job in a toxic environment.
All right. That's different.
Yeah, we're going to go in for the challenge.
Okay.
But they're going to pay me good.
Fish and chips or rice and peas and jerk chicken?
Rice and peas and jerk chicken.
All right. The Apprentice or Dragon's Den?
Apprentice. Yeah.
Paris or Maldives?
Maldives. Oh my gosh, don't get me started.
And final one, heels or trainers?
Heels. I'm a heels girl.
Okay. That's nice. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sharlette. It's been a real pleasure hearing your story. And I'll be including your social media links in the description below.
Thank you so much. Thank you.